Hi, Facebook family. This is Zelphine Smith-Dixon, and I'm excited to have this opportunity to come back before you one more time to share some information of hopefully that will be inspiring, transparent, and transformational. As I have thought a lot about many of the conversations that I've had with people across the past couple of weeks, and really just sharing what has been poured into me around the topic of launching out in the deep and what that means for you, I want to challenge you this week a little differently. I want to ask each of you to really take time in when you're being quiet and you're being reflective, to refine and to reflect upon what the deep is for you. In many instances, we ask God to do things in our lives that even if He did it in the moment, we wouldn't be ready. And so what is the deep for you? What does launching out in the deep mean for you? And so I say that because it is critical to think about what is your passion. Right? You have a birth date, you have a death date, but there's a dash in the middle. So what does that dash represent for you? How are you filling in the blank? Are you going to live each year to the fullest, or are you going to repeat the same experiences year after year after year? And so I'm going to give you some quick tips in just a few minutes to really get to a place and a space where you begin to define your passion. First, just to make sure we all have common language and common understanding, I'm going to tell you how I define passion. I define passion as really that intersection between what I believe and how it informs and impacts the space and the place I exist in. If I don't believe in it, it's not passion. If it doesn't impact and inform the place and the space I exist in, it's not my passion. If it does not inform how I move life forward, not just for myself, but for others around me, it's not my passion. And so I want you to think about that for a minute. Many people may define their passion as, I love to sing, I love to read, I love to write books, I love to teach, whatever that it is. How does it compare with what you believe? How does it intersect and impact the place and the space you exist in? And how do you leverage the energy, garner the energy to move life forward, not just for yourself, but for other people around you? Now, here's the thing I'm going to ask you to think very deeply about for a minute. Sometimes it's not as important about what my passion is. It's probably more important how I move it forward. So I'm going to give you an example. I've had an opportunity to speak to people across this country. And in many of the instances in which I'm sharing information, often the response from the participants seem to be pretty similar. They say, gosh, you're so passionate about whatever it is you're speaking about. Whatever it is you're sharing, you're always so passionate. And so what I've learned is when you learn how to garner that energy and move life forward, not just for yourself, but for other people, it doesn't matter exactly what your passion is, because you can bring that energy to whatever it is you've been asked to put your hands to in this season. And so I've gotten to a point where God has just given me the grace to understand how to grow passion. He's given me the grace to understand the process. So I don't major on the minors. I don't major on boxing myself in to say I'm only going to be great at one thing. I bring that energy to whatever it is He's asked me to assign my hand to in this season. Because even though I know it's time to launch in the deep, I'm not sure what He may ask me to launch into the deep with in this particular season. And so I'm going to give you a quick test to help you check your passion or put your passion in check. So we're going to spell it out. Passion. The P in passion, it should always remind you that you have to plan to persevere beyond the norm. If you can't write it down, it's not your passion. You might believe in it, but it's not informing and impacting the place and the space you exist in. And you certainly will not move anybody else forward if you don't exercise or demonstrate the discipline to write it down. So you have to plan to persevere. You don't change the game by accident. You change the game by being intentional. And so how is it you're going to move life forward for someone else? Write it down, document your plan, and have the spirit of expectation that this is really going to happen. This is really bigger than me. This is my launch in the deep. Attain outcomes. It's not your passion if you can't be accountable to your own passion. You don't have to save the whole world, but you need to be accountable to whatever it is you believe in. So even if it's on a very small level, how have you demonstrated outcomes in this area? How have you shown forth that, hey, I applied myself. I wrote a plan and I made small gains with those plans. You cannot ask someone else to believe in your passion when you are not accountable to your own passion. Shake up the systems. And so here's where you have to get at the table. You have to figure out the systems, because often the reason why others are unwilling to persevere beyond the norm is because they are often uninformed about the systems or unwilling to challenge the systems. What are the barriers? What are the systems? And are you willing to shake those systems up? The other S stands for sustaining the momentum. This is very critical. Many times with our passion, we tend to leap around from one thing to the next thing. And what happens is you lose your integrity, because every time someone is talking to you, you're passionate about something else, but you're not attaining outcomes and you're not shaking up the systems. The I in passion comes back to you have to be able to initiate difficult conversations. If it's what you believe in, initiate those difficult conversations. You must always remember that it is the thing that you are the most passionate about, that you are vulnerable for being the most poisonous about. So you initiate those conversations, but you have to initiate those difficult conversations in love and in wisdom. You have to oppose the odds. You have to go against the odds that are definitely going to stack against you. The final letter in passion comes back to N. It reminds you that because of your passion, you're going to have to negotiate others to take the stand that you have taken. Here's what's really critical. You can't negotiate others to take a stand for something that you haven't written down. You don't have a plan. You're trying to look like everybody else. You don't have the outcomes. You're not shaking up the systems. You're not sustaining your own momentum. You're not initiating difficult conversations. So there's a place for asking others to take the same stand that you have taken and really shake up the systems and build that passion. But it doesn't necessarily come at the very beginning. So I say all of these things just to remind you that it is the thing that you are the most passionate about, that you are the most vulnerable for being the most poisonous about. You have to be intentional in this season. So whatever it is that you feel like you can garner that energy based on what I believe, how it informs and impacts the space and the place I exist in, and how I'm willing to move my life forward, then you have to trust God in this season to launch in the deep with whatever that it is. Be blessed, my brothers and my sisters.